In the last stream, we were working on finally delving into the deep mob learning mod to automatically produce redstone dust over here for the automation of tier 3 research and the automation of diamonds, which in turn allow us to make more polymer clay and keep this whole system chugging. Since the end of the last episode, we have managed to upgrade to the advanced version of both the Shulker and Witch data models. They've both done over 100 cycles now, and so they are now slightly more efficient. There's a 25% chance for pristine matter on both of those. Of course, that is just going to keep getting better and keep iterating as we play through here. And real quick, before we do anything, one thing that people in the YouTube comments and in the Twitch chat have pointed out is that right at the end of the last episode, we put down this new induction smelter here to automate the production of Electrum for that tier 3 research, but I did not hook it up to power. And so real quick, if I do something like that, that hooks that up to the main power line and should hopefully give us the ability to actually start making power. One problem you might run into if you use the Ender.io fluid conduits to set up your boiler is that these disconnect. For me, it's whenever I leave the server and come back on, I have to break this and replace it, which is not ideal. Again, we can set this here to extract, always active. That should start to fill it with water. And then over on this side, we can break this one, and it's the same deal. We can do this, set this to extract, always active, and this should be set to insert by default. It is. That should bring power back online to all of our machines, slowly but surely, including now the induction smelter. Nice. So the solution to that is to move away from the fluid conduits. The quest book does recommend using this thing right here, the fluid allocator from thermal expansion, which is an interesting little block that's not too hard to make, and it kind of acts as a buffer. So you could put this onto the boiler and then connect the fluid pipes to the allocator, because I think the problem is just with the Ender.io conduits and the boiler itself. Alternatively though, if we are going to want to get up to the 10,000 redstone flux per tick, which is the maximum power you can generate from one boiler, we're going to want to move over anywhere from the Ender.io conduits towards these high pressure pipes. To do that, we need a lot more research, and that kind of gets me to where I want to start for today's episode. I want to get more researchers down, because right now we have one researcher for each tier of research. We are slowly but surely getting research. We've got 46 production. We're not making any more though, because we have burned through the 5 million redstone flux that we stored in our energy hatch, and so we are going to have to figure out power for this. Over here we've got 171 mechanics and 486 logistics, but as we move forward here, some of the research that we need to unlock requires a staggering amount of research points, especially in regards to logistics research. And so I want to get more researchers down, and I'm also thinking of pivoting away from using these speed upgrades, because I think it's going to be much more efficient for us to use the energy upgrades instead. Because the way it works is that the speed upgrades here, they do make the researchers faster, but they don't make them more efficient. So with 2 speed upgrades, this researcher is twice as fast as it was without these upgrades, but it uses twice as much power. So there's no real efficiency gain. It's just a space gain. It's efficient on space, but we have infinite space, so that's not really a problem. Whereas with the energy upgrades, these have no effect on speed, but they reduce the power usage. And so essentially, if you were to put 2 energy upgrades in here, it would work at the same speed that it does normally, but use half as much power. And so effectively, if you build 2 researchers and give both of them 2 energy upgrades, that will use the same power as 1 researcher, but be twice as fast. And so it's almost always a better idea to build more researchers and use the energy upgrades, as opposed to building fewer researchers with speed upgrades. So that's kind of the plan. Ideally, we would unlock some of the higher tier energy upgrades here, because the tier 1 energy upgrade makes the machine use 30% less power, and there is a bit of info down here as to how it works. You can do 1 minus the speed up bonus to the power of the number of upgrades, and so essentially the initial number here is you take 1, you minus 0.3, that's what it means when it says speed up bonus, 30% 0.3, that gets you to 0.7, and then if you square 0.7, or just multiply 0.7 by 0.7, you get 0.49, which is how you know that this is using half as much power. So if you then upgrade to the next tier, this one right here decreases the energy usage by 50%. So again, you do 1 minus 0.5, which is 0.5, multiply that by 0.5, or just square 0.5, you get 0.25, and so essentially, what all those numbers mean is that with 2 of the tier 1 energy upgrades, you get a 50% reduction in power. With 2 of the tier 2 energy upgrades, you get a 75% reduction in power, which means that for blue search here, aka tier 3 research, instead of using 100 FE per tick, it would only use 25 FE per tick if we had 2 of these, and it would be the same speed as the machine is at base without any speed upgrades. And so that's kind of the plan. In order to unlock this, the tier 1 energy upgrade is not too bad. Let's grab some mechanics and logistics research. We can do that straight away here. But I think, unfortunately, in order to unlock the next bit of research, we do have to go through this chain of first getting the thermal upgrade kits, then getting the speed 2 upgrade, then getting the energy tier 2 upgrade. And as you can see, this is where we start to have to use a lot of logistics research, because each one of the speed and energy upgrades here require 128 logistics research. So we need 256 just to unlock these two. And ideally, my goal for today's stream is going to be to try and unlock this guy right here. We might not get this done today because we might just need too much research, but the Infinity Drill is kind of the next big upgrade that I want to work towards. To get it, we do need 16 lots of 64x logistics, which is 1,024 logistics research, and so you can see now why we need to upgrade our research infrastructure. Along with that, we need 32 lots of 8x mechanics research and 32 production research, but this is going to unlock for us a multi-block structure that allows us to automate the production of copper ore and iron ore without having to manually drill it out of the ground, which is going to be super useful because, again, as we go forward here and start to try and produce a ton of logistics research, we're going to need a ton of iron and copper, because logistics research is just iron and copper. That's all it is. And so if we could get that fully automated, unlimited, as it were, then we could make really as much logistics research as we like. And so that's the plan there, but we've got just so much stuff we need to unlock. As I mentioned earlier, if we want more power, we also need the high-pressure pipes. That's another 12 lots of 8x logistics research. And so, yeah, enough babbling. Let's see if we can't get some more researchers here. To make them shouldn't be too difficult. We do have the ability to make these research capsules, and as we saw previously, we can make the multi-block capsule base here using some of the pre-existing machinery that we already have. So it looks like we have 6 of them ready to go. I think it's tricky because we could make more of the tier 3 researchers to make the tier 3 research faster, but I think going forward, it's actually the tier 1 logistics research that we need more of. And so although this does get completed faster anyway, I also do think we want kind of more of those. But I think what we'll do to start with here is we'll see about making, I was going to say 3, but I think I might do like 6 on each. So I might try and make like 18 researchers here, because again, if we are going to make a lot of these energy upgrades, these don't have the benefit of speed, like the speed upgrades do, but they do have the benefit of efficiency. So I think I might try and get 18 of these research capsules, and then we'll see about moving these research multi-blocks in such a way that we can kind of line them up and then just run whatever required items are needed to each researcher, and then just use round robin on these extractions here to distribute evenly to all of those researchers. So in order to make the extra 12 multi-block capsule bases, we just need more modularium, which for us is just more iron and more redstone. We are slowly but surely running out of iron now. We're down at under 1,000, which is not ideal. We can, if we want, augment this redstone furnace, of course, with yet another one of these reception coils. In doing so, that is going to make the iron production hopefully just that little bit faster. We could also do the same thing, I think, with the pulverizer here, although I don't know if that's strictly necessary, because I think that the pulverizer is already making stuff way faster than the redstone furnace can keep up. You'll see right now it's fully backed up here. And even after multiple cycles of this, it's still not ready to go because a lot of the iron there is in the secondary output slot, which is blocking things up. This, hopefully, is fine. We'll keep an eye on it, though, and see how it goes. What we need to do is we need to hijack one of these induction smelters for the modularium. And about 3 stacks of modularium later, I think that should be enough for us to make all of the machine casing that we're going to need here. Let me make basically as many of these as we possibly can, and then as many of these as we possibly can. 19 is more than 18, and so from there, we just need a bunch of steel in the form of plates and fences. I think we do have exactly 0 steel plates in the system, why would we? But as per usual, we should have a nice backlog of steel over here. We do indeed. 375 should be more than enough for us to progress forward here, and of course, our trusty engineer's hammer is not going to let us down in terms of making just a staggering number of steel plates. And not too much steel crafting later, we should have a lot of research capsules. And of course, as per usual, they do not stack, which is real nice. So we're probably going to have to do a little bit of reorganizing here. Right now, we've got this this rail track here, which is going to have to go. It's going to have to be moved at the very least. And to be honest, I don't think we need it anymore. Now that we have automated redstone, like fully automated redstone, we don't need this, right? The only use for this really was to bring redstone and occasionally diamonds over, but we've actually automated both of those. We have diamonds coming in from our shulker data model, and we have redstone coming in from our witch data model. So we can take all of this up, and we can also tear down the 3 existing researchers, and then see about placing down 18 of them in total to, I guess, more than 18. I think I've made 18. And so 18 plus the 3 that we have, so 21 in total, down, and then we'll look at hooking them all up. So get rid of this, get rid of both of these, of course, get rid of this. We might as well steal the chest here. Of course, it's full of redstone. It would have been too easy for us to move stuff out if it wasn't. For now, we can dump all of these research capsules away and go ahead and steal this as well. That does remind me, I do need to hook up my new redstone drawer to the simple storage network, so we can access the redstone without having to run over there every time we want a little bit. But essentially now we can grab our hammer and just start tearing this stuff down. For now, I'm going to move these using the carry-on mod. We'll just put them to the side like this, and then using the hammer, we'll just tear down every last one of the pre-existing researchers. All right, so I've torn those down, and I've placed down dirt in their place just so I know where they were a second ago. My thought process here, we can use the researcher blueprint that we were given, which is this one, to replace down the ones that we just picked up. Of course, the gearboxes are going to be in the system because we didn't use the gearboxes. We used the speed upgrades. That's fine. We can fill this up. And then I think what we'll do is we'll place them down like this. So like 1. And then I don't think we technically need to leave a gap, but I'm probably going to leave a gap just to make it a little easier for us to check up on any given researcher via the controller. That is not what I wanted to do. Let me try and tear that down. I probably should grab my sickle real quick and do a bit of grass destroying, because although you can put them down on top of the grass, it is a little finicky, and it's going to make our lives a lot easier if there is just no grass like anywhere around here. All right, so a little bit of space later. Let's do 2. Let's do, I was going to say 3, but we need to grab a tiny energy input hatch, and then we should be able to fill this up. Left click. That did not work. Oh, that's a tiny item input hatch. Again, the problem here is this guy. We right-clicked it to be a small energy input hatch. We need to then craft it back into a tiny energy input hatch. That is my bad. There we go, left-click, and boom. Yeah, so there's 3 of the Tier 3 researchers. From there, let's free up some space in our inventory here, and let's grab a bunch more of these guys. We've got 17 more in here. Now we've kind of got to make a decision on how we want to distribute these. Basically, whether or not we want more of them to be Tier 1 than we do Tier 2 or Tier 3. I think basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my excavator, and I'm going to get rid of this. And given that this is where the Tier 2 researcher was before, I think I'm going to put the new researcher down right here, like that. That should be fine. It is... you know what? No, I'm going to move it 1 or 2 further over, actually. I was thinking of having them in the in line, but I think it's going to make more sense for us to instead have this maybe 2 blocks over. So if we just get rid of this, I'm going to do the same thing again here, but just move it 2 further over. So I'm going to do it like this. There we go. So now we've got space on this side. We can color coordinate these. Obviously, we have 3 outputs coming here. We can just re-color coordinate these to have 1 color for the flux electrum, 1 color for the redstone engineering blocks, and 1 color for the aluminum widgets. We can then have all of these 3 connect, and then just run the conduit all the way along to all of these researchers. And then the same is obviously true for the Tier 2 research, and then we'll do the same again for the Tier 2 research, and then we can do the same again for the Tier 1 research. This time, we're going to get another researcher, and again, we'll leave a 2-block gap, and we'll put it right about there. Nice. And again, here, we can connect these 2 together and then run it up here. And then for the middle one, we can connect these 2 here and here together and then run that along here. So, like I said before, I think I am going to get more Tier 1 researchers than basically any other tier. So there's 3. Let's do 4, 5, 6. Initially, we got 18 researchers, and we were going to do 6 for each tier, but instead, I think we're going to do something like this. So I have gone ahead and made one more researcher, and basically now we have 10 tier 1 researchers for logistics research. We have 6 tier 2. Oh no, we don't. We've got 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, we do have 6. I've just placed them down funny. The reason that I've placed them down funny is that what I didn't realize is that if you use this blueprint and you right click to place it down, you can then right click again to pick it up. So if I right click this, you'll see that one researcher up here just kind of randomly disappeared. And I think that's what I've done accidentally over here. Let me go ahead and put this back down like that. And then we need to tear this one down over here and put this one down where we've just taken that other one from. That's a slight mistake, but the long story short here is that we've got 10 for tier 1, we have got 6 for tier 2, and then we've got 4 for tier 3. And so that should allow us to make, substantially more logistics research than anything else. Whether or not we're going to have the iron and copper to do that is yet to be seen, but we can tackle that problem as and when it occurs. So I think what we'll do, like I said, is we will kind of just color coordinate these. So here we can do the same thing we've done before. We can set this to extract on light gray. We're not going to connect this to the main line, so that's fine. We can set this to extract to orange. Again, it's not going to be connected to the main line. And so once that is done, we can then just run this all the way along to every researcher in the line. Once we've got all of the conduits connected, we can disconnect the one we don't want, which is this one here. And I guess we also probably can just disconnect the center ones here because they are just bigger. And the fact that they're bigger means they're going to hold more items. And then, of course, using the conduit probe, which we have here, we can... I'm going to temporarily disconnect this because I don't want the items to start getting sent until we have them all hooked up. That way we get an even distribution amongst all of our researchers here. But we're going to set one of these to insert on light gray, and we're going to set the other to insert on orange, like that. Of course, we can just shift right click on the light gray one and then run all the way down the line, pasting that to each one of these. We'll do the same thing with orange. We'll disconnect all of the center conduits, and then we'll hook it all back up as soon as we get the next tier of energy upgrades. So I think that is something we're going to do before we press forward here. The question really is, I don't know how expensive the next tier of energy upgrades are. Not in terms of research, but in terms of actually making them. Because I think we do have the research to unlock it. If we go back down to this quest line, we can do this. That's easy enough. Let me get a stack of blue, let me get a stack of green and a stack of red. That's going to unlock the thermal upgrade kit for us. That's going to allow us to make our thermal expansion machines even faster, but more importantly, it's also going to allow us to upgrade our dynamos to make them even better as well. We can then also do this, I believe, to unlock the next tier of speed upgrades. As I mentioned before, I don't think that's massively useful to us, but we do have to do it in order to unlock the next tier of energy upgrades, which is really what we're after. And the question is, do we have enough, I guess, mechanics research to make that happen? We've got enough blue. I'm going to have to put this back, and yep, we totally do have enough mechanics research. So I'm going to unlock that as well. And then, do we have enough green? We totally do. Nice. Okay, cool. That's a lot of research spent, but I think it's worth it because I think the efficiency is going to be good for us. Now, the next question, like I said, is do we have the ability to make a lot of these? I think the answer is yes, actually. We need a lot of machine casing, which is a lot of modularium, which we can make. We need more of these reinforced upgrade kits, which we can make. Flux Electrum, we've got automated. Aluminum gears, we also have automated. And then redstone is coming in from our witch data model. The only thing we don't have is lapis. However, what we can do is we can temporarily redirect our pristine shulker matter towards the production of lapis. Right now, we're using it to make diamonds, but we can change that. So over here, we're actually starting to back up on diamonds. I'm going to click to remove, and as soon as we get our next data model, and we're actually close to getting to the superior tier, which is going to increase our pristine matter even more, but I'm going to leave this like this temporarily, which means when we come back, there should be a little bit of a backlog of pristine matter, which we can then use to make some lapis, and then use that to make the energy upgrades. Anyway, I'm going to go and quickly basically configure all three tiers of item conduits here so that we can get all of the items from where they are at the beginning to where they need to be in their different tiers of researcher. Alright, so quite a while later, we now have all of the conduits down. We're using light gray and orange here to move the conveyor belts and the iron plates. Over here, we've got all the conduits down. We're using orange again for the copper core blocks and gray for the steel. Again, we can use the same colors because this line is not connected to this line at all. Not quite sure why this line looks different to this line, but don't worry about it. And then over here, we're using yellow for the flux electrum, we're using red for the redstone engineering blocks, and we're using white for the aluminum widgets, and all of these are connected. So we have got quite a lot of researchers down. I have stripped out the gearboxes on all of these because I don't really want them doing anything unless they have 2 of the tier 2 energy upgrades. And I was just about to hook power up, and I had a bit of a revelation. So what I've done is I've run energy conduits to all of these just to make our lives easier going forward. And I was about to run this energy conduit here down through the ground along the pre-existing item conduit and try and connect it up to our pre-existing power over here. But as it turns out, none of this setup, despite the fact that we now have a staggering number of researchers compared to what we had before, I don't think any of this is going to require that much power, to the point where I think we can probably just hook this back up to our water wheel system and have it work. Because as I mentioned earlier, with 2 of the tier 2 energy upgrades in a researcher, that researcher only uses a quarter of the power that it would otherwise use to make the research. And so for the tier 1 logistics research, normally the researcher uses 10 redstone flux per tick. And so with 2 energy upgrades, that goes down to 2.5 redstone flux per tick. And so even with 10 of them running, that's only 25 redstone flux per tick. And don't forget, we're making 240 with the 3 water wheels. Then we've got the tier 2 researchers. These right here use 20 redstone flux per tick, which means, again, if you could take that down to a quarter, that's 5 redstone flux per tick. We've got 6 of these, so all of them combined use 30, plus the initial 25 over here takes us to 55 in total. And then over here, the tier 3 research requires 100 redstone flux per tick. We have got 4 of those. If you divide by 4 and then multiply by 4, you get 100 again. So in total, these use 100. And so the whole setup here requires 155 redstone flux per tick, which is not much, and I think is low enough that we can probably just reconnect this up to our water wheel system if we were to grab some more of the LV wire connectors, which we have right here actually. And I think what you can do is just kind of put them straight onto the conduits here, as long as you got space for it, like this, and ideally like this. The reason I'm doing 2 here is that we do need more than 100 RF, so we might have to pump more than 1 connection in, because the 1 connection can only transfer 100 redstone flux per tick in. But if I do this and this, I think that should be enough power, assuming that all of these machines here aren't using too much. That should be enough connections, I should say, to give all of these power. We'll find out once they all go online if we're actually gaining power or losing power on this. And yeah, worst case scenario, we could potentially look at adding like 1 solar panel somewhere to this setup to add to the pre-existing network of LV wires that we've got going on. But now that all of this is up and running, we need to actually look at making all of the tier 2 energy upgrades. So we've got 20 researchers now, which means we need 40 of these tier 2 energy upgrades. So for that, we're going to need a lot of stuff. The first thing we need, of course, lapis. Let's go check over in here. In the time it took me to set up all of those researchers, we have managed to get actually a lot of pristine shulker matter, and so we can start turning that into a lot of lapis, which is good. We're going to get like 4 stacks of lapis there, which is perfect. On top of that, we need a bunch of modularium, which is fine. We've got loads of copper. And then we also need some aluminum gears, some redstone blocks, and some fluxed electrum. How are we doing on redstone? 744. These are now superior, so it's 50-50 on whether or not we get redstone with every cycle, which is great. We are still backing up on polymer clay, which is also good. And yeah, no, this is fantastic. So we'll let that back up there. That's good. We'll once again hijack this induction smelter to start making modularium. Over here, still a little low on iron. The reason for that is that the slag is not going anywhere. I've run into this problem as well. I'm not quite sure why this is not working. From my experience, if I take this out, it works again. I'm not quite sure why that happens. I don't know what's causing that to block up, but it's back online now, so hopefully we should start to see the iron number going up a little bit faster in the future. But yeah, this all looks pretty good. Let me go check on aluminum gears. We are making aluminum gears, right? Yeah, so we should have quite a few of them in here. We got 64. We can go ahead and just steal those, and then we can always make more as well if we need to. But 64, is that going to be enough? We need, oh yeah, that's going to be more than enough. We only need 40 of the gears, so that's fine. Then we need 160 fluxed electrum. That's the bit that's going to be a little expensive, but again, should be fine. We do have fluxed electrum in the system. We got this from when we tore down the pre-existing tier 3 researcher, and right now more fluxed electrum is being made and distributed to all of these machines. So getting the 160 fluxed electrum is mostly just a case of letting the system over here, this fluid transposer and the induction smelter further back, do their job, and slowly but surely we'll back up on that fluxed electrum and we'll be able to make even more of these reinforced upgrades. Redstone we are getting, and we do have 800 in the system. That's a different 800 to the 800 that we have in the drawer over by our steam boiler. So we just need, I think, 80 of these. So 16 more if we've got what it takes to make that. Good stuff. And yeah, I think that's basically it. Let me go make some modularium, and then we'll see if we can't start putting these together. All right, and 5 stacks of modularium later, and I think we are ready to go. So let me do something like this. We need to make basically as much machine casing here as we physically can. We need quite a lot of it. There we go. And then let's see, do we have what it takes to make the rest of this? I've taken the lapis out, and for now I have just not set this to anything, although we should reset it back to diamonds to make sure that keeps working. This should be more than enough lapis, so I'll put all these away in the system, and then it's a case of whether or not we can make 40 of these. The limiting factor is definitely going to be the fluxed electrum here. So we can make 30, which is pretty close actually, and then that should allow us to make 30 of these basically right away here. It totally does. So we just need 10 more of the reinforced upgrade kits, which is just going to require a bit more fluxed electrum. Hopefully in the time it took me to make the modularium, we've started to get a bit more fluxed electrum. We have, it is a small amount. I think we're basically out of silver at this point, so we do need to look at getting even more silver ore from a nearby drill to keep that whole thing going. How much does this give me? It gives me 4 more of these, so 34 is where we're going to end up at. That is fine. We can always add more of these as we go, and I'm going to start by adding these to the tier 1 researchers here. These should be basically filling up nice and slowly on conveyor belts and plates, and so as we add these down, we should start to generate a ton, hopefully, of tier 1 research. Again, these are not sped up, but they are super efficient in terms of their power usage, and so I'm going to go ahead and drop all of these down on tier 1, then tier 2, and then tier 3 machines, I think. Although, to be fair, there's a compelling argument, I guess, for kind of doing it on the tier 3 research first, and then running the tier 1 machines without any upgrades, because even without upgrades, these only use 10 FE per tick. And so what I might do instead, actually, is I might take some of those back off of the tier 1 machines, move them over to the tier 2 machines, and for a little while, we can have just a couple of tier 1 machines running at a slightly higher power usage. Each one that we don't put upgrades in uses, what, 7.5 extra redstone flux per tick, which is really not a huge deal, whereas each tier 3 machine that we don't put upgrades in uses 75 extra redstone flux per tick. So yeah, I think we'll prioritize the higher power usage machines, and then all we need to do now is actually look at running item conduits from the tiny item outputs on every single one of these researchers background to some kind of centralized location where we're going to put our compacting drawers. Okay, so a little bit more conduit running later, and I think everything is kind of hooked up here. So we've got all of our gearboxes down on basically all of the researchers, apart from the last few of the tier 1 researchers. I've then run 3 new lines of conduit. So there's one here, there's one going down the second line, and there's one going down the tier 1 research as well. All of those are connected, and all of those are extracting on the same color, because of course these drawers here are locked, and so we can just set all of these to insert, which I just did. Yep, insert, insert, and insert. And so now all of the research should be getting moved out of these output slots, which it looks like it is, and being sent around into these compacting drawers. And so, yeah, slowly but surely we should start to back up on research. We've got 377 logistics. If we're going to unlock the infinity drill, we need that 1024, so we're a little ways away on that. Let me see, how are we doing here? These are backing up, which is good. It means we are, for now at least, producing the required items faster than we are using them. Over here, completely out of iron. We've got 2 iron left, which is not ideal, and more iron is being made, but now it turns out that the speed upgrades do need to go elsewhere. Again, that isn't a problem. It is if you don't make the coils first, Isaac, but we can make a lot more of these speed augments. We can put them like here, here, and here to speed things up a fair bit. And on top of that, what we can also look to do, these guys don't even actually have hardened upgrade kits, which would be step 1, but we can also look at making even more of the upgrade kits, the tier 2 upgrade kits that is, and using those to make these machines even faster. So right now we can do this to make that quicker, but if we have more fluxed electrum, which I'm assuming we might do, although I guess we're never going to start to back up on tier 3 research if I take all of the fluxed electrum, but if we steal some fluxed electrum real quick, we can of course use that to make yet more of these reinforced upgrade kits, and we can of course use those to make these machines even quicker. So The bottleneck right now, again, is going to be the redstone furnace eventually. And so if we do that, we now have space for even more augments in here. We get to put in up to 3 of the auxiliary reception coils, which is going to allow us to make that even faster. Even with just the reinforced upgrade kit, it does get even faster on its own. Of course, we could do with more Invar to make like the induction smelter faster, but there's definitely work that we can do here to make all of this quicker. And we are still backing up on iron and copper ore, so currently our bottleneck is the speed of these machines. And so we need to make these faster if we're going to keep up with the demand for all of the researchers here. What I'm going to do now, though, is I'm going to go around and do some tidying up, because we have a lot of holes like this in the ground that are not ideal to have to try and navigate. And on top of that, we also have quite a lot of exposed cabling, and so we could do with getting quite a few more conduit facades. Let me quickly check here. Conduit facades. Can we make a bunch of these? We totally can. And what we might do for the first time, actually, is see if we can't make a grass block. Right now, I don't know if I'm going to keep the grass blocks around. Do we have any leaves? We don't. We do have shears, though, and so I assume I can go and get some leaves from a local tree. Thank you, local tree, for donating your leaves. And with that, we should be able to make our first grass block if we go and steal 1 overworldian matter. That does remind me, in the last episode, I did put a storage downgrade into the extraterrestrial matter, but I didn't put a storage downgrade into the overworldian matter. So this one, not a storage downgrade, sorry, a void upgrade. We don't need a storage downgrade. We do need a void upgrade, because without a void upgrade, this thing will eventually back up and stop producing redstone, which is not what we want. Let's do this. We are still getting redstone, which is good. How are we doing on the march towards self-aware? We do need 900 runs to go from superior to self-aware, so it's going to take a little while. But again, those are going to slowly get better over time. And with this, we can do something like this. It does look odd there, but I think once we right-click it down, yeah, it looks like regular grass. So at some point in the future, we'll probably end up replacing the grass with something different, something better. We might set up a platform like we've got for our main building and our power area. But for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and just tidy all of this up. All right, so I've covered in all of the holes in the ground. However, we are running into a slight power problem. These guys and these guys are not getting enough power. This one kind of gets some, but then it stops. So what we are going to need to do, I think the problem here is that this whole setup doesn't use that much power, but everything here, including all of the metal presses, are connected to our water wheels. And in total between them, they produce about 270, maybe 267 redstone flux, which is not great if all of our researchers need like 150, right? That leaves not a lot of redstone flux for the metal presses. And so I think they could do with a little bit more power. I think what we might be able to do, though, is kind of somewhat sneakily tap into our dynamo power. What I'm thinking I might do is I'm thinking I might put down a couple of connectors around the outside. So to make this work, actually, we're going to need to get some more of these LVY connectors, which means we need more stone. We do have a lot of stone over in this drawer. We could do with getting a lot of these hooked up to the simple storage network so that we can access them without having to come over here manually. But if we do something like this, we can take a few of these. If we also grab the engineer's hammer, we can do the same trick we did earlier with this connector to run power through these steel scaffoldings. So I'm thinking if I put one there, and then if I can put another one on the other side like that, we can then right-click that, and if this was going to work, then that should have transformed. I can't help but notice that it's not transformed. My thought process was that we could then run a cable kind of along to here, and I'm just trying to do this in a way that it doesn't look terrible. So we could run something from here, and we could put another LV connector over here. So if we did something like, let's say, this and this, we could run power. This is only going to pull 100 RF, but I think that's probably fine, because we could then go from here up to here. We could then go from here up to here. And then the trouble then is that this normally should pass through. It's not passing through. That might be to do with the steel scaffolding just being a weird block for it. Let me try getting like a block of steel. The steel sheet metal might do the trick, actually. If we were to break the steel scaffolding and replace it with a block of steel, does that work? It does. Nice. Okay, cool. So that does actually work. I guess the steel scaffolding just doesn't count as a solid block, maybe because it has like the ladder functionality. But either way, let's do this and this. And then let's see about doing this. This might be too far away. It is. That's fine, though. We can just add an intermediary LV wire relay. Ideally, smack bang in the middle, which might be there. And then we'll do from here to here. And we'll do, finally, from here. And we can just about reach it, but although we could also just use the scaffolding to here. And then, you guessed it, from here down to here. And then let's see. Is that good enough? It might not be still. There's quite possibly more than a 100 RF deficit. So I think this is working. You'll see here that these tier 2 input hatches are starting to back up on power. The tier 3 ones aren't just yet. So over here, these are not backing up on power. But I think these work on a nearest first basis. So I think it's going to fill up this one. And then once that's full, then it'll start filling up this one. This one is already filling up somewhat. We'll keep an eye on it. We might need to add another connector to the dynamos, like another LV wire connector to make that work. Obviously, these are not working right now, but I'm interested to see if once these have filled up, if these then start filling up as well. I guess we could kind of force that to happen by stealing some solar panels. You're not doing anything anyway. We need to move this drill to get more iron. But if we go ahead and steal these solar panels, we can temporarily add them to this setup over here. And in doing so, we can kind of give this a rush of power. And the idea is that hopefully, when we take the solar panels away, the power doesn't go down. Hopefully, it stays high enough to keep things running. Okay, so a little bit of time later, these are now all full. So my question is, if we could leave these solar panels here, we could make more of them, of course. That would work just fine. But my question really is, if I take away these solar panels, are we pumping enough power into this network of LV conduits to keep this going? So are you... No, you are losing power. Okay. Again, I don't think that the problem there, I'm not quite sure why that's not getting picked up, but I don't think the problem is energy input over there. I think the problem might just be the amount of energy going into here. It could also be a total throughput problem, but I don't think we're using more than 800 RF here. Let me try adding like 1 or 2 more conduits over here. I'm going to do 2 just because it looks more symmetrical. We'll connect those up here and here. And then let's see if that is enough. Okay, so now we are starting to back up on here again, which I think is good news. This is doing fine. This is doing fine. This is starting to back up. And I assume that once this is backed up, we'll hopefully start to see the other researchers here backing up as well. All right, so we are good. Yeah, everything is working as intended here. It took a little bit of time for the power to back up because obviously it's moving in slowly and these are pretty big buffers. But as you can see here, we are fully backed up on power and nothing here has changed. We've just got the same 3 connectors running up through, along, round, and connected to the same network there. So we're tapping a little bit of the boiler power to keep all our researchers going. We now have 653 logistics research. We've got 106 mechanics and 14 production. All of these are slowly but surely on their way in. You'll see that we are losing copper and we are running out of iron. And I assume we're probably, we're out of aluminum as well, which is crazy because we had so much aluminum. We had like 2,000 not so long ago. But that makes sense. We're backing up over here with a bunch of the aluminum widgets. So what we need to do now, I think, really, is increase the speed of these machines, which again should be pretty doable. I assume we have a little bit more flux electrum that we can hijack around here. We can steal some of this. I'm going to leave a little bit in to make sure that that keeps running, actually, so we don't completely stop everything from working. But I do want to get quite a few more of the higher tier upgrades. We also need to make some more invar as well. But I'm going to quickly see about upgrading these machines to see if we can't get to a point where we're increasing the amount of iron and copper that we have, as opposed to constantly at 0. Okay, so I've made a bunch of hardened upgrade kits, and so now every machine here has at least a hardened upgrade kit on it. And I've also made 5 more of the reinforced upgrade kits, so now these machines here all have reinforced upgrade kits on them. And now I think our problem is potentially a power one. It looks like the power is going up on some of these machines. This one's going down. This one over here looks like it was going up a little bit. Maybe it's kind of just holding steady. But now it seems like power is a problem. If we check our dynamos here, they're kind of maxed out now at making that 300 RF per tick. Occasionally they dip down to 200. That is a problem with the throughput, so we're not pulling the steam out fast enough. And so I think next time, chat, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to unlock the high pressure pipes. In fact, I think if we have 24 blue research, Ooh, we're so close. Once we get to 24 blue research there, let me check the system real quick, because I think I put some research in here earlier. I did, but just logistics, unfortunately. We can unlock these infinity pipes, and those infinity pipes are basically our gateway into unlocking the full potential of that boiler and getting that full 10,000 redstone flux per tick, because once we can move unlimited water out of the aqueous accumulator and then unlimited steam out of the boiler, we're able to fully maximize the dynamos. We are going to have to make even more reinforced upgrade kits, because we're going to want to upgrade the dynamos from their current hardened upgrade kit status to reinforced upgrade kits, which is then going to give us more augment slots. We can put in more transmission coils to burn through more steam. Of course, the boiler can make more steam, it just needs more water, and right now we could try and move more water by putting more conduits on here, but it's a little bit futile. These can only move a maximum of 4,000 millibuckets in total anyway, and so it's not really ideal. And again, every time you leave and rejoin, the conduits do kind of disconnect. So we do want to replace those, I think, sooner rather than later. And this last one really isn't coming in too fast at all. We can handle in 23 of the 24. We're just waiting on that one last little bit of research. Let me go see if any of these are close. They're not, because we don't have enough energy, which of course is because of the fact that these dynamos now are all working overtime to try and keep these guys here full on power. And so, yeah, that's to be expected, I guess. We could also look at, and I think these are all in different stacks, by the way, because they've all got like different amounts of power in them. We could look at getting the next tier of solar panels as well, and potentially tapping those in. Again, this whole setup should be fuelable on just 10 of these solar panels, because they produce 160 RF, which I think is about what we're using with all of the 20 researchers that we have. So I'm going to leave these here for now, just to make sure that this setup does always have power as and when it needs it. And so hopefully, at some point within the next minute, we should get that last bit of blue search, and then we can take a quick peek at the recipe for the pipes. The infinity pipes are a little bit janky to work with, because unlike the Ender.io conduits, they're not quite as configurable, and I believe we also have to have like a special block that pumps the steam into the dynamos, so we need to move these forward by one, I think, because we need to extract. We might even need to move them forward a few blocks, because I think we need a special block to extract from the vent here. Then we need the pipes, and then we need another special block on each dynamo to insert the steam. But the benefit is that these can move infinite fluid transfer rate, so they can move as much steam as we like. There is literally no limit to the amount of fluid they can move. Hey, there we go. Okay, we've got our research. Let me quickly hand that last piece in. Fantastic. And so now, if we type in pipe, yeah, we want to go to the @pressure pipes mod. And so these are all the things that we're going to need here. There is the high pressure input, there is the high pressure output, and then there is also the pump. Yes, the high pressure pump here. So the pump is what is going to allow us to pump water out of the aqueous accumulator into the boiler. And do we have what it takes to make this? The trouble is the aluminum, I think. We're very low on it. We got 64 in the system, which is actually quite good. And I think we can make this actually quite easily here. Let me get another fluid pump, and then let me make the pump itself here. The pipes are also not too bad. They're just cactus green and aluminum ingots. And so the idea with this is that if we were to get rid of this and get rid of this, I think somewhat awkwardly the pump places down facing towards you, and you can't rotate it with... Oh, you can rotate it, but you can always set the... Oh, no, this is fine, actually. Okay, hold on. I'm a fool. Let me put this here. That... Oh, yeah, no, that's incorrect, because I want to be able... I need to... You can only make it face towards you, which means I have to, I think, break the boiler a little bit so that I can right-click on that side, and then I can replace down the boiler bits like that, because then we can put our aqueous accumulator here. So you just want the arrows pointing from the aqueous accumulator into the boiler, and then if we get a lever, we should be able to move basically an infinite amount of water from the aqueous accumulator, which produces infinite water, by the way, over into the boiler. And you'll see now this is just rock solid. It's full of water all of the time. It's making all the steam it can. And so now in here, all of these should be getting enough steam, but the reason they're not is now just due to the fact that the Ender.io fluid pipes are not fast enough to move the steam out. And so the next thing we need to do is we need to get another pump, I think, because I think we want to extract from here. The pump can, I believe, go directly into... Oh, no, I don't think it can. I think it's somewhat awkward. Let me read this here. I think we need to go from a pump into a pipe input. The high-pressure pump can transfer from a tank right behind it into one in front of it, and the high-pressure input and output can push fluids into and out of high-pressure pipes. So, somewhat awkwardly, we need another pump We then need to pump that into a high-pressure input. The high-pressure input then goes to the pipes. Then we need to have a high-pressure output on every single dynamo, which isn't too bad. It's just a bunch more aluminum, a bunch more pistons, and a bunch more fluid pumps for both the inputs and the outputs. They're not too difficult to make, but we're going to need 1 input, 10 outputs, so we need 11 of these in total, which is like 66 aluminum, which we just don't have. So we do have some aluminum ore, though, and so you know what? We might actually be able to make this work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily disconnect this. And by disconnect, I mean I'm just going to go in here. Not like, I guess that does work, but I was going to set this to insert, not extract. And so I'll put the aluminum in here. That should get us over 100 aluminum, which should be enough to make this work. All right, so I think we have everything we need now. I've made some more pistons, and I've made some more fluid pumps. The Twitch chat is right, and we actually don't need a high-pressure pump here. On the high-pressure input, it says extracts from containers behind it. So we need 1 high-pressure input, and then we need 10 high-pressure outputs. We then need some more of these pipes, hopefully not too many, 12 might be enough, and we need to kind of move this whole system. So we're going to have 1 block here for the input, then 1 block here for the pipes, then 1 block here where the conduits are for the inputs, then the dynamos are going to go here, then the conduits are going to go in front of that, and so I think we just need to move these forward by like 2 blocks, like this, and that should give us the space we need to put all of these down. Of course, we are going to have to reconnect some conduits, like this one here needs to be moved over by a few blocks, but that should be fine. So let me see here. If we shift scroll to get back to the wrench, I'm going to go ahead and pick basically all of these up, and then we'll pick up all the dynamos as well. I think we can use the carry-on mod, although I don't know how well that's going to work. These energy conduits are, of course, going to go back down over here. So I want my dynamos down like that. That actually works perfectly. Once we've got all those moved, then we need to put the high-pressure outputs down, ideally pointing into the dynamos. But again, oh, it's so awkward because, like, these, you can't, I don't think you can place them down, like, without, if I do it like, can I do it like this? I assume I can do it like this, but it's awkward because it means we can do these ones on the edge, like that. Can you carry them? That's a good question. If I do this and this, no, they just go down the wrong way. That's unfortunate as well. That's fine. It just means I have to move some of these dynamos out of the way to actually get these down like this. Then we can put these ones here, and then we can look at moving them back like that after the fact. It's a little janky, and by a little janky, I mean like super janky, but it is going to get the job done. So we'll do this, 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 and this, and then we can just move these 2 back here and here. Perfect. We then do need to connect each one of these up to pipes like that. Perfect. And then if we get rid of these, we can then just have the high pressure input go down. Again, whether or not I'm going to be able to get that to face the right way. Perfect. And I think, again, that might need a lever to actually work. But if this is correct and I do this, we should start to see these filling up with steam, and we should hopefully start to see things backing up on power as well. So let me connect all of this up, and now we should get the actual full 3000 RF per tick. We should have been getting it before, but the throughput problem from the conduits was what was causing us to not get it. And ideally, the idea here is that we can make 10 more reinforced upgrade kits, and using those 10 reinforced upgrade kits, we can then upgrade these fully with dynamo augments to produce 10,000 redstone flux per tick in total. Let me check here. This is set to insert on brown and extract on red. I'm going to disconnect this and move that over to here. So I'll put that down like that. Make sure it's set to insert on brown and extract on red. Always active. Perfect. We'll connect that up here and here. Good stuff. And then power-wise, we just need to make sure that all of those dynamos are connected. They are. Power's all good. And then we just need to run it across and under to give everything else power. So if I do this, this, and this, that should, hopefully, be us online. So these are losing power, but we should see this number here go up to 300 and stay at 300. Unlike before, where there was kind of a wobbly 300 because it wasn't getting enough steam, now, because of these infinite pipes that we have that can move as much steam as they like, we should see this hit 300 if we don't have a backup on power. But all of these are now going up, which is good. So all of these are now actually backing up on power, and the same should be true over here. We shouldn't need the solar panels, but I'm going to leave them there just as kind of a last resort. And yeah, going forward, now, if we need more power, we can, of course, make those hardened upgrade kits and then get that power, which is probably going to be required sooner rather than later, because I think next time what we're going to do, we're going to come back and we're going to look at setting up these 3 deep mob learning setups. We need unlimited redstone, which we have. We also need ender pearls and glowstone so that we can make enderium ingots, signalum ingots, and lumium ingots. Those 3 together are going to allow us to automate the production of utility research with a few more metal presses. It also is going to allow us to finally do tree farming, which I think we'll do in the next episode as well. And on top of that, we also want to get this thermal elemental data model up and running so that we can get the aerothium dust required to actually utilize the infinity miner, which hopefully we'll be able to unlock with all of the research that we are now getting. And so, yeah, we need to set up at least 3 more of these systems over here with the loot fabricators and the simulation chambers. That alone is going to be like 1,500 RF per tick extra required. And it does say in the quest book that the infinity miner uses a lot of power. And so hopefully 10,000 hours per tick is going to be enough for us to run it. We should have 1,024 logistics research by the start of the next episode. We're almost at 1,000 already. And so, yeah, next time we'll come back, we'll push forward. We'll see if we can't get the infinity mine open ring. We'll see if we can't get utility research underway. We'll see if we can't start working on automated wood. And then we can start the next age, which starts with the oil and plastic and all that good stuff. But for now, I'm going to have to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Feed the Factory there.